Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to change the oil on my 2017 Z06, and I thought, what better way to show you how to do it? Some people out there are hesitant, so I'm going to show you the correct way to jack it up, what tools and what supplies to use, and all that good stuff. So let's get started. Let's start with the oil. I'm using a Mobil 1 5W30 full synthetic with an M1 113A oil filter. Now this vehicle takes about 9.8 quarts because of the external sump, so get ready to drop some coin. So next on a list are the jack stands and the low profile jack to get underneath the side of the vehicle, and also this little guy, a jack puck. Can you see that? I don't think so, it's not focusing. There we go. This is a jack puck. This actually goes underneath the frame rail and lets you jack up the car safely without damaging anything. Now I know this looks scary with the car like up on one side and jacked up like this, but it actually is the correct way to jack this car up. We're gonna hit the other side and get it jacked up too as well. Now I'm only going to jack up the front of the car right now, but if I was gonna be working completely underneath the car, I would just put a jack stand underneath the front and a jack stand in the back, which I can show you where that is in just a second, then go to the other side and do the other side. It's crazy, right? Hey, it works. So this is what we have. The jack puck actually goes into a slot that's in the frame rail and just pushes up into it. That way it stays in place. A lot of people leave them on their car, but I don't recommend doing it. I recommend taking it out and just using it when you need it. As for the jack stands, we're going to put them on the cross member right here on this piece going across. So I have one on this side, and then I'm going to jack up the other side and put the one on the other side. So, looking at the back of the vehicle, if I were to go ahead and jack up the back as well and keep it in the air, I would just put the jack stand underneath the cross member right here as well. One on this side and one on the other side. Okay, just want to give you a position of where the jack stand is on the frame rail. So, I'm gonna jack up the other side now. One thing to keep in mind when you're putting your jack stands on the cross member is just to make sure that they are even and flush resting on the cross member. If you noticed in the video, I jacked up the car again on both sides just to make sure and realign the jack stands. Also, I left the jack underneath the car on one side just as a safety, just to make sure in case anything does happen that, hey, you at least have a little bit of safety barrier there. Okay, so now that we have the car jacked up, let's go ahead and pop the hood and we'll start to get the oil drained and the oil filter changed. This is what you'll need for that. Okay, for the tools, you'll need a 15mm wrench or ratchet and an oil filter wrench or pliers. Also, you'll need a drain pan that is adequate to hold enough oil. You definitely don't want to be overspilling on the floor and making messes here. Plus, here's a little tip. You can always take a larger wrench like this and lock it into the side of the existing wrench and create a lever for you, so you don't have to sit there and beat on your wrench while you're trying to get it out. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Okay, so before you drain the oil, make sure to go ahead and remove the cap from the oil reservoir, because this just allows it to drain a little smoother, and also by not creating any vacuum, keeping any oil in there. Okay, so you can actually see everything here. We got the oil filter, and then also you got the first drain plug, and then there's a second drain plug right up there. And typically I'd pull both of them out, but I guess, you know, you probably don't need to, but I do just in case, because it lets the external oil sump drain everything out of the oil pan and out of the external sump too as well. So Anyways, let's get to it. I'll show you that trick I'm talking about with the wrench as well. Kind of doing this blind on the other side. Watch that. See? Just making a lever out of it. Don't have much room to do this. I'm gonna split the sides here. There we go. That's a little better. All right. See? Just like that. Pretty cool, right? So we'll get that one kind of loosened up. And we'll get the drain pan over here. Okay, so this is the front plug draining, and it is definitely the master plug. You can see I still have my other first plug back there still laying it drain. I'm just gonna let these guys both drain completely out. Also, you probably noticed I had to move my jack stand out of the way. It just had to happen because my oil drain pan is way too big, but I did just put it over here on the side underneath the control arm, and I left my jack obviously underneath the car. So quickly working underneath here. As soon as I get this drain pan out of the way, I will move it back. While the oil is draining, I would recommend checking your oil plugs to make sure the threads are good and the gaskets are good as well. And also maybe just spray a little bit of brake cleaner on there, get those guys cleaned up. Get all the extra oil off there right before you put it back in. Also, before you put the plugs back in, take your rag and put a little brake cleaner on it, and also clean off the surface of the drain holes too as well. Okay, so putting the plugs back in, right before I go to tighten it down, I do want to just take my rag and just kind of wipe around the oil drain plug area just to get any extra oil off. You can put a little bit of brake cleaner on your rag before you do that. And then as far as tightening these down, you don't have to use Hercules-like pressure and torque, because this is an aluminum block. You don't want to strip it out. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. All right, back to the wrench. All right, you want to snug it first, and then, all right, you want to snug it first, and then I just kind of hit it a couple of times like this, give it a couple of taps, and that should be good. Now removing the oil filter with the oil filter wrench. Get myself in here a little better. There she goes. That should be able to get. Oh boy, she is a tight one. There she goes. All right, let's get the pan underneath her. All right, so on your filter, you want to make sure that the gasket is still on the filter and not actually stuck to the block. We'll let that drain down, and then we'll go ahead and throw the new filter on here. Before I throw the new filter up here, I do want to make sure that I put a little bit of oil just around that gasket. That keeps it from actually sticking. All right, we'll get up in here. Make sure she's going on smooth. Presto. All right. Perfect. Let me slide this pan out of the way so we can actually get a little better visual going on here. There we go. Now, as far as any cleanup, I'll go ahead and spray a little bit of brake cleaner around this after I'm done, just to get all the excess oil off of here. But for oil filters, you don't have to use a tool to tighten these back down. You actually just do a hand tighten by 3/4 of a turn, to where really you just can't really tighten it anymore. Again, you don't have to be Hercules on this. You just need to get it nice and snug and good and tight. All right, she is tight. All right, get a little spray up in there. any residue off. Beautiful. Clean the floor off too. Beautiful. All right, folks, we are ready to put some oil in. All right, so now that we have the car back on the ground, it's time to get the oil in and get it warmed up and check it. Now, this Corvette takes 9.8 quarts of oil, which is quite a lot. Not every Corvette takes that, just the Z06, because it has the external oil sump system, so it takes a lot more. So make sure you check your Corvette specifications before you go putting oil in it. Also, the thing about the Z06 with the external setup like that is you have to start the car up, get it to operating temperature, then let it sit for 15 minutes, and then you can check it. So we're gonna do that right now. Let's get going. All right, so this is the moment of truth, the startup. Okay, no lights are on, oil lights out. I'm gonna let this thing get all the way up to operating temperature, and then we'll let it sit for about 15 minutes and check the oil. Also, this is a great time to walk around and look underneath the car, make sure nothing is dripping and nothing's coming out. Always good to double check, right? All right, looks like the oil pressure is doing great. Let's check our actual coolant temp. We're gonna let this get up a little bit warmer, probably about 180-ish degrees, and then we'll shut her down. And we'll let it sit for about 15 minutes and then check that oil. All right, so while we're in here, we'll go ahead and show you how to reset your oil life too. So what you wanna do is you wanna toggle over into your basic info settings, click on it, and then also scroll down to oil life, and then press the button on the right to get you over to the right, and then all you have to do is reset. And you want to reset? Yes, we do. Okay, it's at 100% now. Okay guys, just let it cool down and checked it just now, and I know it's hard to really tell, but boy, we are right at the top, and I mean it is absolutely perfect, just below the top mark there. All right, that is pretty much it. Simple as that. If you got any questions or comments, feel free to add it in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to hit that follow button, and I will see you next time. See ya.